Okay, thanks for joining us on this Sunday morning coming down. I ended up needing the flexibility. I had intended to just make pockets in the wall here to install posts, but I forget that when you notch these studs and you make it large enough to not have any trouble building this beam in here and not ever run into a tight spot, you end up with openings, and I want to set the weight of this back down and close all of that, and to go far enough down here, and there's a lot of leeway that you need to manipulate things around and get this, because it's heavy here and I need to use it to my advantage, its weight to my advantage, to put it in positions that I need for nailing and then lifting and then changing that around. It's very dynamic. And long story short, I needed to go down through the plane of the top of this existing foundation, so I ended up needing to knock the top of this off. We got the big guns here. We had to rent a chipping hammer. I have an SDS hammer drill that you can set to just hammer. This is more of this is halfway or 3/4 of the way to an actual jackhammer. It's a beast. It's made relatively quick work of this. In fact, I've been the weakest link because unlike a jackhammer, working straight downward, which you certainly can do with this device, but a jackhammer is exclusively sort of for that orientation. This here, you hang him out using your core and your lower back, and your arms like a sling, and obviously work horizontally. And that is an absolute motherfucker. This thing's probably more than 50 pounds. Well, it's at least more than 40 pounds. But we got her. What I did was dug outside almost all four locations. Well, I dug some at all four. At the farther one, I ran into a concrete pad that was existing. There's number 1 in the corner, whatever you want, 2, 3. So 2 and 3 have got footings in there, and we're going to install those posts. Number 4 here, if you want to call it that, I hit this pad. You can see I scratched it up, and I'm going to have to get that hammer around and smash away on that. I wanted the 2 middle ones to be installed and to start bearing the weight of the building, and then I'll go out and fart around at the corners. Because in the middle you've got things slung across. It's less of a, there's the same reason, the reason that you talk about a cornerstone to a building. Working in the corner is more, has more of an impact, because not only does it impact one of the faces that make up that corner, but the entire other face has also to do with a corner. So it's theoretically got twice as much going on, or it's influencing twice as much real estate, or whatever you want to call it. So it's a nice rule of thumb for this, to work somewhere you've got limited variables, and we'll get that right in here with wood underneath. Not that anything should happen, but as a best practice once again. So I dug 1, 2, 3, 4. Then I had to get down in there and chisel over into the clay, because I haven't got the power of the backhoe to reach over. See how that disappears under a ledge, and that gets us, according to the plumb bob, gets our footing that way enough to be underneath our post. You can see that the failure here, there was some bad batches of concrete, but also this is where you want to be. I mean, it's hard to see here, but that's the top surface of that is 4 feet from this grass, which is basically what you need, 40 to 48 inches in this climate zone. What somebody did here was tunnel down through the topsoil when they created this building, and they ran into this clay, and granted, this clay it's dense, it's hard digging, so they just chiseled away on the clay, the footprint of the building, and poured stone and concrete as this foundation. Yeah, well, this isn't deep enough. Certainly not. It's not relative to the outdoors in this case, because on the inside the floor is lower and this building wasn't heated. See, so this is just as cold in here at cold times of the year as it is outside. So now you're even closer. It's hard to appreciate here. In several places the grade was way up here outdoors, but you're freezing cold air that's being traded and heat transferred in the wintertime, blowing through here, being icy cold, is about a foot away from the bottom surface of your footing. And so this freezes right down in here, freezes right along, freezes, swells up, and it pushes that up a little bit here, and maybe down the way some more, and here and there, and then it relaxes in the melt, and then it And then when it freezes up again, it swells up and pushes it up, and you're just deforming. You're basically, over a long timeline, too long for humans to appreciate, well, not too long, but a lot longer than we normally see, like bending a piece of plastic or metal. You just bend it back and forth until it fails. And what you're doing here is frost heaving. That's what's happening. It's going and it works this right apart, as well as a bad concrete batch here or there, or before this had gutters, the rainwater rolling off, hitting the ground here and splashing, and it's got an acidic pH just splashing up on that. See how that's all pockmarked? So you've got acid rain working on the outside of it and leaching as this thing heaves and cracks and heaves and cracks, and then you have capillary action sucking that acid rain into those cracks, and it's all microscopic, or at least very tiny action. And you know, people don't come along checking out their foundation all the time to see, or even start with have a real appreciation of this. But lo and behold, big cracks appear, and then you start talking about you know, can those be filled or whatever. That's just a band-aid. Well, by the time you have big cracks, it's all over. It's all over. So from the word go, this is, now that I'm working in here, I see there's sawn, it's all sawn lumber, and this is poured concrete. This building isn't maybe 50 or 60 years old, maybe. However, it was wrong from the word go. All of this in the very beginning was incorrect, and since then, nothing that has happened here has really helped matters. So we are fixing that. I'm going to put 1-2 posts in here, measure, cut, pack them in, nail all the way down the siding to tie them into the siding, nail into the beam, and then I'll probably throw a little soil down into the hole here to clear this out. I'm going to use a shovel. I just want to put this nice clay and bank run medium back in there. I don't want any of these chunks of concrete. I don't want any of this old ceramic tile, drainage tile. I don't want any of that in there if I can help it. I don't know that it would really hurt matters. So if you have, that's another best practice, but if you have something monstrous, this here, size of your head or smaller, you know, far enough away, not a big deal, I suppose. But you get into things like that, and they're laying all around here and they are up and nearer the surface. Now they are heaved by frost and migrate around, and just real slow, but they may heave around and end up leaning against the post and pushing on him when frost acts on that big lump and levers it over and pushes the post over, and maybe that could migrate it off this footing over time. You just don't want to leave yourself open, and you want to have an understanding of how frost works in water, and you want to be way down there. You want to be to a depth that's appropriate for your climate zone, so that this will never freeze. You know, the earth stays about 50 degrees after the depth of that frost can permeate, and it just kind of hangs out there, never freezing. And that's where you want your footing, never changing, never freezing, just like all these stones that were deposited by the glacier thousands of years ago. We just want everything to hang out and not move on us, and then build on that, which causes our building never to move on us. And that's what we're trying to achieve here. Although once we're standing on posts, we're going to talk about how we could prep and pour a concrete pad here out and around the posts, and then we can extend the wall framing down to the pad the way a traditional wall is built around here, and then start our grade outside lower than that still and down and away. And in the end, the majority of the weight of the building is now on your stick-built framed wall, and in 30 or 40 years, you know, when, a little more than 20, 25, when these posts become compromised, eventually they will no longer be necessary. You'll have most of this building standing on a framed wall to a pad, just like any ranch house or anything else. And in that way, we'll work in reverse and surgically, but you'll end up with what should have always been here, which was either something built on a pad up and away from any kind of water and protected from splashing with eave troughs and climate controlled inside, you know, 4,000 pound PSI concrete pad, or deep footing. And if they wanted to pour a wall, they'd have gone down twice as far and poured a 2-foot wide block of concrete footing, solid all the way around, and then built with block, or formed and poured a foundation wall just as high as this one was. And now you're down deep enough, and you have that style solid foundation to the building if that's what you wanted, and that's what you do. But this here was just a comedy of errors, or a total failure in design. And this is where we are currently at. We got the rest of today with that hammer, so I better get back to it. Hopefully I don't throw my back out. Thanks for watching. Catch us later.